This is the Horse Radio Network.
This is episode 1131 of Horse Tip Daily, your almost everyday morsel of helpful hints, useful facts, and practical techniques for horse folks. Brought to you today by Kentucky Performance Products. Greetings, horse folks. Coach Jen here, and thanks for tuning in to Horse Tip Daily. For today's tip, Glenn the Geek gets together with leather care guru Betsy Cohen, who has great advice on how to take care of wet tack. And we'll get right to our tip after this from Kentucky Performance Products. How is Summer Games different from other electrolyte products? Summer Games Plus contains the same electrolyte formulation as Summer Games Electrolyte, which was originally formulated for the horses competing at the 1996 Olympics. The formulation was based on the results of research conducted in anticipation of the Games, which were held in Atlanta, Georgia, known for its hot, humid summers. Summer Games mimics the composition of equine sweat, supplying the horse with the exact amounts and ratios of electrolytes relinquished in sweat. Summer Games Plus contains no sugar, like many popular commercial electrolyte supplements. Summer Games Plus also contains a buffering agent that helps create a soothing gastric environment. This is especially important for horses subjected to the stresses often related to top performance, such as exertion, transportation, and unfamiliar stabling atmospheres. Ask for Summer Games and Summer Games Plus electrolytes at your local tack and feed supplier, or visit kppusa.com. Now, on with today's tip.
For the person who's on the trail ride and they're coming back and they get 15 minutes of a steady drizzle. So the saddle is damp but not soaked all the way through. It's basically you're going to get the saddle off. You're going to clean and condition as usual. And if you don't usually clean and condition your saddle after you ride, when you have it damp like that, you're going to need to. So you're going to clean it and condition it. When you put it away, you have to take a second look at where you're storing it, especially for the next 2 days. It needs to be in an area where there is airflow. It needs to be in an area where it is generally light. So dark basement, dark tack room with no windows, door closed, no lights on, those are not good places to keep that saddle. You have to remember mold, mildew loves dark, spooky places. They like it damp and yummy, and your saddle has so many good things left in it that they, you give them a little bit of dark and a little bit of wetness, and they're like, yum, feast, and they invite all their neighbors. So basically, go to a light area, keep the saddle, sometimes I just bring it right into my living room and keep it there for a day or two when it's been slightly damp like that, so I can kind of keep an eye on it, keep it conditioned, usually a day or two, and it's dry, and then I just go over it and recondition it, and we call it good and continue using it.
So you do you do let it dry first?
Well, like I said, right after you're done riding in it, you're going to clean and condition it as usual, and then you're going to put it up and watch it for a day or two. Make sure no mold is growing in, and basically you're going to condition it after that and then put it away back in your tack room wherever it's normal, because by that time it should be dry.
Okay. Gotcha.
If the saddle is completely sopping wet, you've been stuck out for many hours, you are drenched, the saddle is pretty much dripping, at that point, do not clean the saddle. You are going to use a conditioner. I wouldn't use an oil. I would just use a straight conditioner. I would suggest Bic 4 or Bic 5, just because, that's the products I'm really familiar with. You're going to condition it. Again, you're going to put it away in a cool, dry area with a lot of airflow. You're not going to take a blow dryer to it. You're not going to put it next to the air vent. You just need naturally moving air. So if you want to put it in your living room with the overhead fan, so it's just circulating air, that's good. You're going to wait until it's almost dry. So that sopping wet saddle, you're going to bring it into your living room, is my case. After a day, I'm going to condition it again that night really well. And I'm going to not just condition the top. I'm going to condition every inch of that saddle, inside, outside, everywhere I can get my hands into. Then I'm going to let it sit overnight, and I'm going to go back and recondition it. What you don't want to do is if you just leave that saddle to sit and dry out, that leather is going to get very, very dry and crunchy. It will not be soft and supple and yummy like it used to be. So you really need to condition it as it's going through the drying process. And that's every 24 hours usually works, depending on how wet it is. That's basically, I've only been caught in the rain where I've been completely soft and soaked through one time, and basically every 24 hours I'd go back over it and really condition the leather, hydrate it really well, and then let it dry. Again, keep it out of the dark. You want to keep the mold and mildew as far away from that saddle as possible. You want to keep the air moving so it keeps that, when you get airflow, it's helping dry the saddle out in a good way, get the water out and keep the emollients and oils in there. And you just want to condition it, and then after 2 or 3 days and it seems dry to the touch, you're going to give it one last conditioning. At that point, there should be no dirt left on it because you've rubbed it all over so many times. And then you can go back and put it back in your tack room or wherever you usually keep it. If it still does not feel dry, you need to take more time and let it dry out and be completely dry and just conditioned. We've all felt some of the saddles that have been used and abused and put up wet, and they're crunchy and hard. It is much harder to get the saddle back in good condition when it gets dried out like that than it is just to, baby it along for 2 or 3 days.
What happens if you have to use it the next day? Just use it?
Use it, but then again, go back and really condition it and keep it in a light area with airflow. That is so important, because once you get mold is very, very difficult to get out of.
Yeah, it's pretty much.
Out of the saddle.
Once you get in your house or your saddle, you're stuck.
Yeah. And there's really no way. I've had flockers go through, or saddle fitters and the master repair guys go through and totally rip out all of the flocking. Take vinegar and water to the inside of the leather. And when you're starting to use vinegar and water, you're stripping the finish off the leather. You're making a big, huge mess. And it's expensive, and you're still not guaranteed that you're going to get it all the way out. But mold and mildew wreck saddles quickly. They make them dangerous. They wreck the integrity of the saddle, of that leather, because they're eating away at all the little fibers of the leather. And that leads to dangerous tack. So at that point, 1 ounce of prevention is worth, 20 gallons of Bic 4.
All right. So take care of that saddle after it's been rained on at the show or on the trail ride. Put it in a light, breezy place of some sort instead of your dark tack room, which you shut the door and don't see it again for 3 days.
And I would also tell you to get the saddle pads that are also damp away from it. Don't cover it with a saddle cover or anything. If you have to keep dust off of it, again, I'm putting it in my living room, so that's not a wildly dusty area. But if I have to cover it with something, I'm going to cover it with a piece of, actually it's a cut open pillowcase, 100% cotton pillowcase that I just split up the side and laid it over the saddle, so it still allows that leather to breathe. Still allows some of the airflow to get to it, but again, it's keeping the dust and dirt off. Okay,
cool. Well, Betsy, where can people find out more about Bicmore?
They can visit us at www.bicmore.com.
Well, there you have it. You can find links to today's guests as well as lots more tips at horsetipdaily.com. Look for episode 1131. And while you're there, why not click on the Become an Auditor banner in the center of the page and find out how you can qualify for auditors-only perks and help support Horse Radio Network programming. And by the way, this podcast was made possible through the generous support of listeners like you and Kentucky Performance Products. This is Coach Jen. I'll be back again soon with another tip. And until then, go ride your horse.